What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what's happening with other factors involving the market, so what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them, and the offer ends very soon in just a few weeks. Anyways, for SPY, we have a bearish divergence that developed hitting this new top on Friday. The new all-time high kind of broke before we saw a little rejection. But the question is, will this continue to see a follow-through move, or is the market about to bounce from here? I'm going to give you guys my opinions on this, provide some insights and such. But I first want to talk about some important data that's coming out for the week, as this is going to have a big effect on the way the market ends up moving. So for tomorrow, it's going to be Monday, June 10th, 2024. Please note that at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out. And at 1 p.m., we have the 3-year notes auction. Very minor data for Monday. On Tuesday, we have more bill auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m. and everything else is quite minor. And then Wednesday is going to be a massive day because an hour before the market opens, we have the CPI report coming out. We have core CPI month over month and year over year, not to mention CPI for all items for those time periods also coming out. And that's going to be very important. Now, what's important about this is it's going to have a big effect on the Fed's policies. And we're going to find out something very interesting a little bit later on, because then at 2 p.m. the same day, we have the FOMC rate hike decision coming out. We're going to find out what Jerome Powell and the Fed want to end up doing with rates. And we're going to get the economic projections report as well. Then at 2:30 p.m., we have the Fed press conference when Jerome Powell is going to be giving a speech. What this guy says is going to have a big effect on the markets. And when he opens his mouth, the market loves to move. So Wednesday is going to be a wild day, not to mention Thursday when we have PPI data coming out. But anyways, for tomorrow specifically, just for Monday, we have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out. That's going to be big for us, at least, causing somewhat of a move, and we'll see how things end up going from there. Now, as of right now, there's a 99.4% chance the Fed is going to keep rates the same, and I actually do believe they're going to do that. I think there's a very, very good chance that they're going to keep everything the same unless we get a crazy high inflation report, which is very unlikely because the previous month's data of inflation affects the next month. So you have to remember that. And the last time it came out, it was like, aligned with expectations. So there's a very good chance it's going to be close to that. So I think that because there's such a high probability the Fed keeps rates the same, that we're going to likely see the same thing happen all over again. And then on top of this, when it comes to earnings, this is what the earnings calendar looks like for the week. I'm likely not going to go over any of these. This is all just very, very minor. Maybe I'll go over Oracle, and that's pretty much it. But everything else is very minor. So if you're interested in looking at this, you guys can take a screenshot. If not, it's up to you. For Nvidia, please note that Nvidia has been announcing their stock splits. We're going to see this actually take effect officially on Monday. The stock split started on June 7th. We're not seeing it on the charts yet until June 10th, by the way. So that's when we're going to see it really show once the market opens again on June 10th tomorrow. And we're going to watch and see what this causes for Nvidia. Now, historically, when companies split stocks, this does tend to lead them to like outperform the markets. There's a good chance that Nvidia could do that. But in the beginning, if we get a little dip, I wouldn't be surprised if we dip first before that move comes. So that's something I just wanted to call out. Apple also has the very, very important conference that's coming up, and this is going to be important. We have the Worldwide Developers Conference. It's kicking off tomorrow. Once again, it's going to be led by Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, and what he says can have a very, very important effect on Apple. So we're going to be looking to see what new AI products they call out. That's going to be very important. As far as Tesla goes, don't forget that we also have Tesla announcing their shareholder vote for the week. What they say is going to be very pivotal for what Tesla ends up doing, what announcements come out. Tesla also announced that they're not going to be doing a Model Y refresh in 2024. A little bit negative. This could cause a little dip in Tesla, but overall, I'm sure it should hold up relatively well. And we're going to be looking for a big move as we approach Thursday. I believe that's when they're going to be announcing their shareholder vote. That's going to be key. So I can't wait to see what Tesla ends up announcing. So that's going to be key for us. We'll see how things go. Moving forward, now let's just break down the charts and solely focus on these. So I wanted to call out that bullish divergences, bearish divergences, they don't always play out. But in this case, we're actually starting to form one. So like right here, we actually had one developing, which led to this sell-off. And there's actually another one developing right here on the 4-hour time frame. And SPY is selling off a bit. So this kind of suggests that downside is a possibility. But right now, SPY is at 533. If we're above that, we actually favor bulls. If we're below that, we favor bears a little bit more. When you look at this trend line, this also aligns with that notion I just called out about 533. We're just barely at the trend line right now. So if we were to lose this trend line, I think there's going to be a little dip coming to 531.5, if not 529 if that fails us. So I find that to be very, very probable. But even if we do get a little dip, I think SPY will likely bounce. So if we manage to hold above 533, look for a rebound back up to 535. If we end up losing 533, I'll be watching 531.5. And if that fails us, I think we're going to be coming all the way down to 529. What do I think is going to happen? What's the most likely possibility, in my personal opinion? I think thanks to the bearish divergence and the fact that we're kind of turning on the 4 hour and also accounting for the daily time frame, the way SPY has this wick forming, which is another liquidity grab, there's a very, very good chance that this is going to dip a little bit towards 531. And we'll see if we bounce off that or not. If we don't bounce off that, then 529 will come, and we could bounce off one of those levels. Now, the market is still bullish overall, right? We're still very, very bullish, right? Even though this thing, pushed all the way up to about 529, came down a bit. When it came down for another day, that does not mean we turned back to bearish. We just bounced instantly from there, and we saw a crazy, crazy squeeze. So the market's not done yet. To me, it just kind of feels like the market is pumped so much to the point where we're in new territory. We're entering new resistance. It's kind of tough in the 530s. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing a little dip before we try to bounce all over again. So I do favor that a little bit more. Looking at the current technicals, tomorrow morning we might rebound in the morning and start dipping a little towards our 20 EMA. And we'll see if we bounce off that first. If we don't bounce off that, we could be seeing 529 then bounce. But that's what I see as the most likely possibility, a dip and a bounce. Now, as for Tesla, there could be a little dip initially because of the fact that Tesla announced that news about the Model Y refresh not coming in 2024. But I just wanted to call out that even if we do get a small little dip, it's not going to matter too much because the overall structure is still bullish. As we have a nice inverse head and shoulders on Tesla, and with the shareholder meeting coming up, I think Tesla's going to see a nice move, likely to the upside, and hopefully to the upside, as long as this pattern ends up playing out. So it's been developing this for quite some time. We got the left shoulder, we got the head, we got the right shoulder forming. All we're waiting for is to break out. And there's a good chance Tesla might start pushing up much higher. Tesla's been consolidating for about a month right now. It's been sideways, back and forth price action, and it's becoming, very, very tedious, if anything. So it's finally time for Tesla to make a big move. I think there's going to be a big surge in volume this week with the shareholder meeting. Shareholders are going to be voting upon Elon Musk's pay package. I personally believe that it's more favorable for them to vote yes to it, allow it to just happen now and get it done with instead of delaying it even more, and even risking having to pay another $25 billion for another one. It just doesn't make sense to me. To me, it makes a lot more sense just vote yes because Musk was promised this already. And if anything, it's just a big investment into the company because you have to think about how Elon Musk will affect it and continue to help things. So I expect the most likely possibilities, we'll see if we get a little dip first. There might be a little dip coming because of the new news about the Model Y, but then Tesla might get bought back up. And there's a good chance that if we close above 180, we're going to see a big rally back into the 200s. I favor that a bit more, but just to be safe, we will wait and see. For the QQQ, it's the same thing essentially. Just like SPY, we actually have a bearish divergence developing, and the 4 hour is showing some signs of contraction. I'm also seeing more weakness on this than SPY, looking at the way we're holding up. The daily time frame is also showing a bit more weakness as we have this doji forming on the daily, which does suggest that downside is a stronger possibility since that's showing us a sign of a trend reversal. And then this previous resistance becoming support is actually something worth watching right over here, which is around this 460 breakout area. I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of pop a bit and start dipping down to 460, very close to our 20 EMA before we try to bounce. If we lose 460, we could be dipping down to the gap fill, come a little bit closer to 456, and then get the bounce. But I think the most likely possibility is we kind of pop a bit and dip a little bit before we try to make another big move. But that's the most likely possibility in my personal opinion. For Apple, we actually look bullish heading into the conference tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually kind of push higher towards 198 or so. We might see a little rally up to this peak. But the last time we got very close to 200, we got a little rejection. So we'll see how Apple reacts to 198 to 200. I think we're going to be testing that tomorrow. So I see a little bit more upside potential in Apple and might try to push a bit. Now for Nvidia, I just wanted to say that Nvidia is in a very, very critical place because Nvidia is kind of trading sideways right now. It already pumped so much approaching the stock split. So could this be kind of like a pump to news events where it kind of just pushes and pushes and pushes, where people start to buy the rumor and sell the news? In my personal opinion, I'd be a little bit careful with this because we're still trying to hold our 20 EMA. And I'll be watching to see where we end up going. If we were around this like 120 area, because remember there's going to be the stock split. If we're at 120 and we hold above that, yes, it could actually continue to consolidate. If we end up losing 118, so if we drop 2 points once we're adjusted for the stock splits, we could see a little break to the downside to retest this breakout area around 1150. So that's going to translate to about 111 for a little dip on Nvidia before it tries to bounce again. So we'll have to wait and see if we get a little dip with the stock split or not. Sometimes that could happen when we dip a bit before we try to bounce. Technicals do suggest we have this gap to fill around 1160 area. If we lose 1180, that's going to likely come. So we'll see. As of right now, this thing is just trading sideways. So there's not really a whole lot going on with it. And there's also a bearish divergence. So I'm kind of in the middle with Nvidia. I do have a feeling it's going to come down a bit before it tries to bounce. So watch and see. To be bullish, you want to see it break past 1250. If we break that, we're bullish. That's going to translate to 125. If we break that, we could continue to pump. If not, I think we continue to consolidate, or we even get a little dip first beforehand before we see a big bounce, in my personal opinion. Then for Bitcoin is trying to rebound a bit. We're actually testing the 4-hour 20 EMA. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually go a little higher towards the 70,000 area before we try to pop and then drop. So I think there's going to be a little push coming towards 70,000 before we reject. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. So that's going to be very, very important. Now, for other factors involving the markets, I just want to call out Palantir. Palantir pumped very, very nicely towards the 24 area. We kind of rejected right here towards 22. If we lose 22, I'll be looking for a little retest of this support all the way down here. 22.13 flat will likely be tested. We're actually at 22.7 right now. I think it might dip a little bit more towards here before it tries to bounce again. So look for a little bit more downside as another strong possibility. For Supermicro, I would say that we have a head and shoulders like structure. This looks a little bit more bearish to me. If we manage to break above 786, I could be looking for a push for 812. If we end up failing to do so, and we end up failing to hold support at 750, look for a dip. I think we might test 750. I think there's a good chance we're going to dip just a bit. For Rivian's actually turning on the 4-hour time frame. If we end up losing 1135, there'll be a bigger dip all the way down towards 10.96. I have a feeling we're going to be testing this. If we bounce off this, we will rebound. But Rivian is showing a little weakness right here. If we lose this 20 EMA, we're going to look for a little dip on it before it tries to bounce again. The structure of Rivian is bullish. This chart looks bullish to me. When you zoom out like this is a bullish chart in my personal opinion. It's going to likely pump more, but there's a big but. Before that happens, we might get a little dip. Okay, there might be a little dip first before that ends up happening. For SoFi is going to likely test 6.92. If we bounce off this, we're going to rebound back into the sevens. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 6.8. So watch that test of 6.92 tomorrow. It's going to dip a little bit. Watch and see if we get a bounce. That's going to be key for tomorrow. Excuse me. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're dipping a little bit. So we're looking a little bit weak on the 4-hour. Watch the 200 support. If we fail to hold that, we'll be dipping all the way down to 198. If we do hold this, we'll try to rebound and try to bounce. But as of right now, we are in a bit of a downtrend. So I would say that this is looking a little bit weaker to me as we are slowing down. But the 4-hour for the IWM Russell 2000 is showing weakness. And there is a good chance, in my opinion, that it might dip a little lower. So watch for a test of 200. If we lose that, I'll be looking for 198. And watch to see if we bounce off one of those supports. But it's going to dip a little bit more, most likely. AMD is just consolidating right now. As of right now, it's holding up well, but it's still trading sideways. If we manage to break past 170, we could turn bullish. If we lose 163, we turn bearish. As of right now, it's just trading sideways, so I think it's going to likely continue to do this. I think it's going to continue to just trade within a range for the time being between 170 and about the 165 zone. And it's just trading sideways, so we'll have to see which way it breaks. So I'm just going to be patient with this one and just give it some time. For ARM, same thing as trading kind of sideways. We're at this resistance. We hit this resistance very close to about 140, kind of rejected off that. So if we end up turning back down, I'll be looking for a touch of these lower levels. So it might actually retest 134 and try to make its way back up. So I see a little dip coming to this before it trades sideways, but it could dip even lower if we lose 134. 131.85 would be our next target. So that's what I'm kind of like eyeing as of right now. For a few more, I wanted to make it very clear that so far Coinbase is looking a little bit weaker on the 4-hour time frame. We have resistance around 246.97. We have support all the way down here at 238. If we get rejected here, we could be dipping all the way down to the 50 EMA. We'll have to see if we get a bounce or not, but I'm seeing a little bit of weakness on the charts. My gut tells me it's going to retest 247. If we reject here, look for a move all the way back down to 238. If we break 247, we'll be looking for a rebound. I'll be watching that very carefully. It is looking a little bit weaker with this 4-hour candlestick. Might try to pop a bit, then start dropping a bit lower, in my personal opinion. For Amazon is slowing down on the 4-hour time frame. We're actually going to be looking at the support right here. I see a retest of this wick. I think we're going to be making our way down to about 183.5. I think it's going to retest the breakout. And we'll have to watch if it breaks off 183 or not. Do we bounce off that, or do we end up breaking that and sinking down to 182.24? I'll be watching that very, very carefully. In my personal opinion on Meta, in my personal opinion, is in a very, very critical place. If we start dipping a bit more, I think Meta could be retesting about this 490 area. If we lose that, I'll be looking at 487, and we have to see if we hold that or not. But it looks to me like it's going to contract a bit and maybe make its way down to 487, and watch to see if we get a bounce. To be bullish, you want to see it break above 500 and hold it. I'm favorite that's going to come down to 487 a bit more. For Microsoft is slowing right now and might actually retest 421. If it holds this, look for a rebound. If it loses, it's going to be dipping all the way down. So I'll be watching that as well. For Google, we're also dipping a little bit. If we end up losing 175, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 173.5. If we break past 176.5, we could rebound. In my personal opinion, this is turning and looking a little bit more bearish. For GameStop, GME, we're looking a little weaker as we kind of pumped and dumped, but we have this big gap to fill down here. I think it's going to fill the gap all the way down to 23. For AMC, we're looking a little bit more bearish. If we lose 4.88, I think we're just barely above this. If we continue to, hold below that, we could be coming down to fill the gap towards 4.35. So I favor that a little bit more. DJT is looking a little bit weaker. We're looking at support at 44.38. Might dip a bit, test that, rebound a bit towards 45, and trade sideways. But overall, the chart is looking more bearish. For the VIX is on a bit of a downtrend as of right now. As you guys can see, we're coming down to fill this gap. I think we almost fully filled this gap, so maybe it drops a bit more to fill the gap, then tries to rebound off 12. So the VIX might try to get a little teeny tiny bounce temporarily, at least approaching FOMC. And then the 10-year Treasury yield, I can't say much about this because, yes, it looks to me like it's trying to rebound a bit. It might retest 4.498 to the 50 EMA. But the reason why I say that is because it depends on FOMC. That's going to be the much bigger catalyst for how this ends up moving. So I'll be very patient and wait for that first. The dollar index is also trying to break out right here. If we continue to push, this could be a little bearish for the markets. We're just going to wait and see because it did bounce off $4 for now. The trend is bearish overall, but it is trying to rebound temporarily. So this is on a downtrend, but it's trying to get a little rebound first before it continues lower likely. So that is causing the market to kind of dip a little bit. So in my personal opinion, technicals and different signals kind of show the market may get a little dip, but this could just be another buying opportunity because of the fact that overall, the market still has interesting catalysts that will affect it, and we just have to wait and see how those end up going. All right. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a very, very happy Sunday. I'll see you guys very soon in just one more day. Less than a day, actually. I'll be back tomorrow morning before the market opens. So before the market opens tomorrow, I'll be back. Let's hope for the best and see how things go. But just heed my warnings about what the market may end up doing, and we'll see how things go moving forward. All right. Thank you for listening, guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys so much. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you guys soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.